It's been a while since I streamed, and it's been a while since I used Slink music, but at least the meters are actually showing that something's actually showing up on the screen. What is up, everybody? This is Jay, aka MultimediaJay. I haven't been streaming for darn good reason. A lot of it has to do with the tech projects that I've been doing around the house. So let's just make sure this is correct. The microphone gain is too high, and set to cardioid mode. We gotta make sure just everything still works here. Blow the dust off a few things as well. Hold on a second. Of course, the way that OBS works with noise filters, they're still on, right? Just turn on the sound and just see if it... Of course, the way that OBS works with noise filters, they're still on, right? Yep, that sounds good. That's one reason to have a copy of your stream going so you can see what the audience sees and things along those lines. when you go to do any of these things, but we'll see if anybody even shows up. For as far as most people know, they could have thought I gave up on streaming, which is one of the reasons why I do hybrid streaming for these types of discussions, because hybrid streaming is basically a stream that doubles as a YouTube video. So that way, if people don't catch it live or they don't get the notification, which they're not going to get unless they set my channel bell to all notifications, by the way, little limitation of YouTube there, and assuming the internet connection doesn't barf or anything like that, I set these things up so they can be listened to after the fact. And already, I can tell that YouTube has broken since the last time I did this, because I allegedly have 0 viewers and King Europe has just showed up in the chat. What is up? What is up, King Europe? So I guess I'm early enough to still be somewhat EU friendly, even though it's 8:30 at the Geek House in the evening, which is early for me being a night shift guy. So here's the scope of my Twitch channel. It's a generic Twitch channel, game streaming. That's the focus. Matter of fact, I'm thinking of being a smartass and firing up World of Warcraft while everyone's mad at Blizzard, because I've been, of course, on Twitter, I've been watching all the people that are furious about all the bad stuff that's allegedly been going on there. But my rationale is a lot of very jumpy people that have probably mass abandoned every Blizzard product out there. So if I play any WoW right now while everyone's mad, I'm guessing it'll be a more civil experience. Oh, thanks for the super. Thanks for the super, King Europe. Looks like the exchange rate has changed since the last time as well. 0 viewer gang. According to the number, there's 0 viewers, but obviously, how can there be 0 concurrence if people are actually showing up in the chat? It's live control room. I've seen it break before, and it doesn't surprise me that it might be breaking again. Hey, speaking of shoutouts, let's throw in some shoutouts across both platforms for people that have followed the channel, beginning with Shane. Thank you for the sub on YouTube. This next one's going to be a challenge. Frostweilen TV. Is that German? I don't know. Thanks for the sub on YouTube. Of course, that's just a repeat. And if we switch on over to Twitch, there's been a couple of Twitch things too that won't show up on the screen. Oh, no. I'm looking at the wrong preview here. Is this Adiga or Adiga Productions? Thank you for the follow on Twitch. And we just played it twice. And Emilric, is this an alt account or did you lose or something like that? Thank you for the follow over on Twitch. Thanks to Stream Elements' handy dandy web UI that interfaces with the OBS Live plugin. I can do that kind of stuff. YouTube breaking, water is wet. Well, that's because YouTube is such a giant technology experiment. Little surprised that an old nerd like me is a big fan of YouTube when YouTube has the experimental stuff that they usually have going on. But the thing is, that's one of the reasons why I don't want to be a full-time content creator. Can you imagine trying to pay your bills off of this stuff and then something glitches and you lose all your ad revenue? I don't know. You know, in my neck of the woods, with the economy emerging from the lockdowns, as well as the yay chirping. I don't know if that's making it into the stream, but we'll talk about that. Birds, baby. So, with everything emerging from the lockdowns around here, one of the big things that's coming up is that companies are actually having to figure out what it means to shop for talent again and sell positions on their team instead of filling positions with human resources. So it is, you know how the Bernie Sanders folks are always like, $15 an hour. We need a minimum wage of $15 an hour. The billionaires cannot run away with all the wealth. Well, here in Connecticut, of all places, it's very, very easy. And in these woods, of all places, and in the warehouse work, of all places, it is very, very easy to make $15 an hour or more. So if you can find a place that's not too expensive and pay your bills off of one of those $15 an hour living wage, good paying jobs, as Mr. Sanders would put it, if you can make that work, it's not hard to just have a day job. And then as long as you don't get too much overtime, work on something like this on the side. And with the evergreen focus on YouTube, have that turn into some kind of passive income at some point later on down the road. Of course, if you need more money up front, just get another job. It's not like folks aren't going crazy trying to find people who will actually work right now, not storm off the job and quit in 3 days or whatever. But this environment is not something that I haven't seen before. I'm old enough to have been around this block before. Keep the drinks handy with all the yelling I'm doing already. Yeah, so I still gotta soften the bottom of this thing. I'm gonna destroy this old side stand thing I've had next to this desk if I keep it up, or destroy this first. Let's see what breaks. This is antique. This desk stuff that I've had the entire time I've had the YouTube channel, and since I was a kid, actually. Interroyal. High-end stuff back in the 80s. I think my stepmother got it secondhand, and it was in her basement or whatnot, and then it went into my room when I was growing up, and I wound up with it. So, but darn it, I haven't had to buy any desks or anything in never. So, here's the thing. Keep the drinks handy. We have a situation on our hands right now where, if you want to make more money up front, you can. If you want to have hobbies, you can. You just got to watch the numbers. But that's something that applies no matter where it is that you go. So, YouTube being a big experiment, who cares if you have, who cares, quite frankly, if YouTube's a big experiment with technical stuff that keeps glitching out. Yeah, it's just the sort of thing where it's fun to do. Yeah, it's a fun hobby. It's a fun hobby, and with the release of Super Thanks, the latest in the Supers collection that YouTube is creating, YouTube has put a shot across the bow of live streaming. I've said I didn't want to get all that big into live streaming, and there's a very good reason for that. The more I've hung out with in the live streaming world since, well, I was already watching live streamers in 2019. So, and of course, I've watched live streamers from time to time in years gone by. Just been busy with YouTube videos and other stuff. But in terms of what's happened with streaming in the last couple of years, there are very specific reasons why it has happened. Very, very specific reasons why it has happened. And I think that when conditions change, we're going to see things happen that will change that as well. So the idea of becoming a streamer, not a good idea. I think the healthiest environment for online media as we head into the 2020s is for streaming to be optional and for streaming to interface with the other stuff that you do. And I think some of the people who are basically streamers experimenting with TikTok are probably going to showcase this. The whole thing with Twitch versus YouTube, they may not want to say that they're a YouTuber. But if they're suddenly in love with TikTok, they've fallen in love with making videos. You can't hide it. Streamers, stop running from the fact that you love something that isn't live streaming. So, we've gone through our shoutouts, we've gone through the intro. I'm going to use the description of the stream to keep on topic here, because if you look at the description of the stream, I talk about hybrid streaming. Hybrid streaming is where a stream is live and then it's worth listening to after the fact, like some wild radio show or something like that. So I have bullet points in the description. The idea here is that's what I want to talk about. I go through everything, and then when I proof everything later to see how it came out, if the internet doesn't conk out or anything, put the timestamps in, and I've already written out what everything is going to be for chapters. YouTube also has a new automatic chapter generator thing that they're experimenting with. I'm very curious how accurate that is, but knowing these are YouTube algorithms we're talking about, I guess it's going to be a work in progress, just like everything else. So You may have heard some chirping earlier. I certainly said there was chirping. Let's talk about some of the noise problems this neighborhood is having and why I haven't been streaming as much. So, here's the thing. First, let's talk birds. There they go. I don't know if that's making it through the noise filters or not. Check the replay. Get out of the description. There they go. I don't know if that's making it through the noise filters or not. Check the replay. Okay, I guess not. Hey, look, it finally says I have a concurrent. Took you long enough, YouTube. Work on your counter. You're slower than Twitch. So here's the thing. The chimney here at the Geek House doesn't go to a fireplace. It is there exclusively to exhaust the gases from the furnace. So you've seen Old Clunky clunked out a while ago, and Old Clunky has a replacement that is similar to the one that was there before. I haven't made a video about it or anything as of yet, but it's a similar model. Its a little thing goes up to it heats the house. It's a small house, so you don't need much BTUs to heat it. Goes up to a stovepipe, and then a Franklin stovepipe, and then out through a chimney. But the thing is, the stovepipe comes into the chimney quite a ways up from the bottom. So in the summer, when I turn off the furnace, birds or whatever flying down the chimney for whatever reason can have a nest at the bottom, and nothing is ever going to happen to them. It's a very safe space. So some smart birds in the area have figured this out, and just about every summer or so I start hearing chirping in there. And the species that's in there right now is one of those birds that hisses at you if they feel threatened by you or anything. So if I wiggle the stovepipe or something, the chirping will turn into a bunch of hissing, stuff like that. But hey, summer visitors, they make noise and it gets annoying. But hey, keeps someone's cat from eating them or something, or they can raise their young or whatever in the bottom of the chimney. They must be birds that don't mind getting dirty because of whatever soot is on the side from running that furnace. But here's the thing. Because of the way the Franklin stovepipe goes into the chimney and there's a space at the bottom, even if the furnace is still running, the birds can stay under all the hot exhaust. So it's weird. I don't know why there's whatever making the noise in the chimney. I'm not running the heat in the summertime, but darn, nature is weird sometimes, and this is one of those examples. So there might be some noise either, if not on stream with the noise blockers, there might be some chirping in the background on some in some YouTube videos. There are also trees all around this house, so a nest in branches too close to the house, which some of the trees need little prunings. That's getting a little too close these days. But a nest in some of the trees, you might hear birds chirping through the wall. Mostly in the YouTube videos, we're enough in town that there isn't going to be too many birds chirping in the trees on most days. As a matter of fact, it's pretty quiet, although this year's been pretty weird. But you might hear some birds from time to time. And of course, as those of you who watch my tech videos will know, there are people who don't know how to take care of dogs. They'll just leave them in a room somewhere barking out the window. So woof, 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 all day long, barking at nothing. So, especially those dumb little yipper-doodle cat plus dogs like corgis and stuff. And if it's not dogs, it's going to be kids. Because there's parents that for some reason move into a neighborhood as terrible for kids as this one, because there's not a lot of, it's apartment. This house is actually surrounded by various multifamilies in the area. There's apartments and stuff. And so in order to have any parking at all, a lot of the places around here can't have yards. So you can go to a park, of course, but kids playing on concrete or playing in the street, that'll be a source of noise as well. And that says nothing about this being a hick town. And because of that, there are also motorcycles, and especially this year with the stimulus and the wage increases in the local area, pony cars. One of the guys in my neighborhood, he doesn't mind making a little noise from time to time. He already had a motorcycle that if I'm streaming at the wrong time, you'll hear him rev it up because he just loves to make noise before he goes driving off. It's a hog, so, he loves doing that. So he had a motorcycle, now he has a pony car. There's a couple other people that are picking up pony cars too. For those of you who don't know what pony cars are, it's an American thing, muscle car. Like a working class muscle car, basically, so to speak. A pony car is basically any car that is in any way similar to a Ford Mustang. The Ford Mustang is the classic, and of course, Mustang's a horse, pony car, etc. But this label is sometimes used to refer to the Chevy Camaro and stuff like that too. It's usually an American, affordable muscle car, not too expensive, but with a little bit of horsepower under the hood. You can take it to the track, do a quarter mile. You know, you can annoy the neighbors if the exhaust is too loud, you know, stuff like that. It's not as loud as a motorcycle, but it's still a sort of thing where you want a midlife crisis mobile. That's your ticket. Around in my area lately, the big one, I don't know why, but the pony car that's getting popular around here for whatever reason is the Dodge Challenger. I have no idea why. I grew up with folks who loved Ford Mustangs. I grew up with folks who loved the Chevy Camaro, whatever model year it was. A lot of the 80s ones were really popular. I grew up with folks who loved Pontiac Firebirds. Nowadays, though, for some reason, I'm seeing Dodge Challengers popping up. I see more Challengers than Mustangs. I don't know if it's because Ford's going to transition to an electric Mustang and they do have gas Mustangs still, right? They're trying to become more of an electric car company. I don't know. But I had no idea that I would end up in a town with a bunch of Mopar heads on the road, or as we would say here in the Northeast, Mopa. Because I don't know what it is. I've seen Dodge Challengers specifically popping up on the roads. I see more, you know, there are some rich people that have Teslas around here. There's Chevy Volts, there's Chevy Bolts, there's all manner of big pickup trucks with 2 American flags flying off the back. It's the woods, it's a hick town. There's gonna be folks who love a good fast car or a big beefy truck. But I just don't get why Dodge Challenger. What the heck happened? It's because of the changing market. Pontiac's gone. I don't even know what a Chevy Camaro would be like these days. Is there even one? I don't know. But Pontiac's gone. Chevy Camaro, who knows? Ford Mustang has an electric cousin. I don't know if Ford's going to keep making gas Mustangs and whatnot. So they're trying to make more electric cars and get taken more seriously as an electric car company, etc. With all the stuff that's going on, and the electric Mustang, that doesn't even look like a Mustang. I'm sorry. Now, there's a certain look to the Mustang, and I bet even if they made a literal electric Mustang that didn't run on gas but looked exactly like a gas Mustang, if it didn't make a lot of noise, people wouldn't take it seriously. That's one of the reasons why you get muscle cars in the first place. Make sure there's some good rev when you put the pedal down. Make sure you can take it to the track and do a quarter mile on a whim or something, and people will actually cheer at you from the stands instead of laughing at you because you showed up. Hey, my Ford Focus is fast. Watch this. You know, I'll bet any money there's probably some K Kona around here who decided to be a total smartass and take a Prius with a dead battery to a track and make people laugh. Some people do that. They'll buy a Prius with a dead battery and run it off the gas motor, even though probably not the best thing to do with one of those because they're slow enough as it is. But can you imagine a Prius with a dead battery running 100% off of gas, doing a quarter mile at a racetrack? How would people not crack up about that sort of thing? I don't know. Yeah, so between the motorcycles, the pony cars, the lawnmowers, kids playing outside because their parents got sick of them, whatever. They want to sit in the AC, and the kids can go play out in the hot summer humidity, whatever. Between all that, there's been more potential sources of noise that might make it onto streams if I stream during the day. And they'll definitely make it into YouTube videos if I have key moments that I can't cut out, because there's no noise processing on those. It's whatever is based on the camera, the microphone. I do have external microphones, but we shall get to that. Still in the recap. I am inching along here. But yeah, noise. So there's another thing we need to talk about when it comes to YouTube. Big change. Tags. So one of the things I'm thinking of doing on this channel is react to my own stuff. Because I've got videos that are 5 years old, 10 years old, whatever. I'm thinking of maybe like Jay versus Season 1, Wacky World of Multimedia Jay or whatever. Do reacts to my own stuff and see how I think about it nowadays. You think about it. The Wacky World of Multimedia Jay has been around since the early 2010s, like 2013-ish or so. So here's the idea. Obviously, things have changed. My attitudes have probably changed and all kinds of other cool stuff like that. Have like a stream where I react to some of my older stuff. and basically have a stream where I react to my older stuff. Simple as that. So, and see, you know, how 2020's MultimediaJay thinks about 2010's MultimediaJay and stuff like that. I thought of doing that with some videos, but now I have a practical reason for doing so. YouTube tags are a joke. I think they're half obsolete at this point. And the reason why I can say this is because, have you ever tried, those of you with YouTube channels that have been around for a long time, have you tried searching your own channel for videos that you know exist using tags? I actually was very rudely surprised once when I couldn't find a video that I knew had a certain tag on it. And it represents a complete and total 180 for how YouTube runs the platform. Once upon a time, tags were the hip thing. Hashtags too, by the way, although you were limited to 3 per video. Tags were the hot thing. And YouTube's systems would actually encourage you to put tags in your videos. You would actually go to type a tag, and YouTube would suggest tags you can click on. So I was like, the more tags, the merrier. Let's just keep them relevant. I probably have videos with way too many tags from like somewhere in the 2010s somewhere. Now, of course, the disclaimer's right there. Tags might be useful if something's commonly misspelled. Otherwise, they play a minimal role in people finding your video. I think even that's a little outdated. I've searched for my own videos on my channel. Now, this isn't like Twitch, by the way, where I very recently found out that you can't search for your own videos on Twitch. It's a hidden UI thing. If you log out and use a neutral browser, you can search, you can search for your own videos. So, overview of Forza Horizon 4, I can search for that video even though it's 5 years old. Problem is, with discoverability, people have to know to search for that kind of stuff. So they have to know to search for that sort of thing. So that's the thing with all of this. But unlike on Twitch, you can search for your own stuff if you search based on what's in the title and what's in the description. Now, I know YouTube has been focusing on title and description more recently for this sort of thing. I know YouTube's been focusing on titles and descriptions, but I had no idea that they would leave tags in the dustbin of history this much. So I searched for something that I knew I had a tag for in that video. Didn't get results. I searched for it based on something I knew was in the title or description. It was there. So, because of this, what I'm thinking of doing, react segments to some of my older stuff and clean up all the tags. React segments, clean up the tags. And basically, just like with these streams, just as MultimediaJay, MultimediaJay TV, and MultimediaJay Space TV, nothing exciting for tags, because I'm not convinced they even still do anything. And it's no surprise. I mean, YouTube has obviously been trying, speculation, but it's probably right on the nose here. YouTube has been trying to get away from systems where there's some game to play, and try and have their systems rank everything based on more human factors, like stuff that people can read for themselves, while having policies against abusing the system. I don't know how many of you people have ever encountered a tag stuffer. These are people who put a bazillion random words in the description to play with the search engines. It's a bannable offense, by the way. Don't do it. But there's a bunch of people that used to do that. But if you just write a descriptive thing, plus if your video is ever involved in a controversy, the YouTube staff will check your description and things like that. So you can say what your video is about, put in a synopsis, or maybe put in a little article or something. You have 5,000 characters, so why not use them? What I'm not going to do, though, is pepper all my descriptions with like spam links and stuff. So don't like have every video with all my socials links, because here's the thing. Someone can get any of my links just by going to my channel page. They don't need to be seeing them on every single video and whatnot. I think that's just one of those things where someone's trying too hard, where somebody's trying too hard in order to do this kind of stuff. So it's one of those data normalization things. You only want stuff in there once. But yeah, the tag system, I think it's done at this point. I don't even see why or where it would actually work anymore. So to clean everything up, what I'm thinking of doing is having these react sessions on stream where I look at older videos. Don't know when I'll get to it with everything that's going on these days, but I'd like to have some kind of react session and whatnot where I show up and I stream and I react to my older videos with how I think about things nowadays. And while I'm doing all that, clean up the tags, because the system's pretty much done, and it could be a source of disciplinary action. I'm just curious if YouTube has ever issued strikes against channels that have lots of tags in a video, because those were recommended tags under the old system. So they clicked a lot of tags because they thought, oh, YouTube thought of tags that I didn't, and now they're getting in trouble for following essentially YouTube's systems back in the day. That might be the sort of thing to send off to Fwiz and the rest of the folks who, and not Team YouTube, that's the customer service team, but some of the folks like Fwiz and whatnot. That might actually be a problem for content creators, and that's one of the reasons why I want to go through and clean up all those tags. I know they're useless, they cause more harm than good these days, so I want to get them down to just very rudimentary MultimediaJay or whatnot, and next to nothing. We'll use better descriptions for this kind of stuff, because a better description gives me a reason, for example, to put in chapter markers and stuff, instead of blowing off the description and hoping the search engines will do something with these tags I'm typing in. If I want to do anything with tags, it's going to be off platform. If I'm going to do anything with tags, it's going to be off platform. My channel and whatnot, if I want to, my blog over at multimediajay.wordpress.com still has an old-fashioned tag system. If I want to play tag games, I'll do that on WordPress. YouTube, obviously, they love their algorithms, and they love their systems, they love all this other stuff. But you need to have some options and some embeds here and there to help out with things like visibility outside of YouTube, like in regular Google search results and stuff like that. Sometimes you just might want to broaden your horizons, even if it means a blog site on a website or a web platform with older technology. Now let's get my mug off the screen here, and let's link up to Chrome. Let's link the browser panel up to Chrome here, and let's look at a tweet from a while ago to talk about a notable issue with Twitch. Twitch was experimenting with something a couple of weeks ago. This is one of the things I never got around to talking about. Twitch was experimenting with a UI change that fundamentally changes it looks like they might have rolled it back because I don't see it now, but this would fundamentally change how Twitch works if they kept it. And that, of course, is link it up. All right, let's link the browser. It's looking for Avast Secure, but now I want to do everything with Chrome. Let's link it to Chrome, and here it is. So this is a tweet from Yugi. This is from the other night, from when I saw this. This is Yugi TV. This is Yugi TV. She's a KIRL streamer on Twitch. Let's see, which of these is the actual browser? Let's click that and let's put it back on the screen. So this is, well, I guess not. This is Yugi TV. She's an IRL streamer on Twitch. She does IRL stuff. Her time, usually late at night my time, so I come home from work and she's out having lunch over in Korea or something. She's currently, I think, doing some kind of US trip or something like that. But here's the thing. Outdoor Adventures event. This screeny is from one of her streams, and here is the section. Followers also watch. These are probably IRL streamers or just chatting streamers, but look at the sizes here. You've got someone with 35 concurrents, and you have someone with 1,000 concurrents, which is around a similar size to what she has here. She often does like 800 to 1,300 concurrents in most streams. Let's see, make sure the right thing's on the screen here. So she often does things like that. She often does that sort of stuff. But here's the thing. The left menu, I'll just put it back on screen. The left menu, I talk about how the Twitch UI is designed. The left menu is where all of the people that are live usually show up. So, but all the stuff that I've seen Twitch doing more recently has been on the right. So trying to make algorithms, recommended smaller communities where everything takes more clicks. So if you want to find someone new to watch, first you have to click browse, and you have to click in the right, categories, blah, blah, blah. But the recommendeds, the algorithmic side, is on the left. So if this becomes a feature that I see on a regular basis, this ends no self-promotion. Because if you share viewers with somebody, there's a chance they can show up in that panel, no matter what size they are. And that is definitely something to think about. Look, the bottom line is, and I've been saying this about no self-promotion and creators self-promoting in your chats and stuff like that. If you are involved in content creation, you need to get used to the eventual, inevitable reality that you will encounter another content creator. This thing where you're like, shut up, don't self-promote. It has no future. That's not the way that the algorithms are working on these platforms. Twitch doesn't want to give you an isolated stage. They want your audience to know who else they can watch if something happens to you, or if you're not streaming, because those watch hours need to go somewhere else. It can't be the case where those watch hours move off of Twitch. And so this left panel is probably the most influential UI change I have ever seen Twitch do, because this shatters the fishbowls. Now, I don't know if Twitch streamers have the ability to turn this off, but they shouldn't, because quite frankly, you want some kind of Twitch community, that's how you do it. And also, people are like, oh, how does it work? Well, if you share enough of an audience, if you stream enough to start sharing an audience with another streamer, your streamer analytics will actually show who you share your audience with. They'll tell you who the streamers are and things like that. I don't have anybody on the list because I've barely been streaming on Twitch, but I have seen it populate before. So that's how I know there are some folks who watch the KIRLs who may have seen something that I posted in a Discord somewhere and came and checked out the stream once upon a time. So something to think about. But if Twitch wants to improve the ability of their platform to not be a giant hierarchy of the biggest can just coast and the little folks can't get an audience, UI changes like this are one of the great equalizers to do that, because some people are annoyed by that, but hey, you could get curious and find someone to watch, especially if someone you're watching has this thing for taking breaks. Or you could just take a healthier view of online media. You could get a healthier viewpoint of online media and just remember that streaming has its limits, and the world needs to realize what those limits are. And I think long-term, the healthiest environment for streaming for online media is one where streaming is optional. Now let's talk about the Blizzard thing. There's been a lot of garbage that's gone on with Blizzard, according to allegations that are being posted, as the state of California is filing a lawsuit regarding the work culture at Blizzard. Numerous allegations of abusive behavior and all kinds of other stuff that's going on, allegedly. I'm not going to do too much with it, and I don't recommend anybody do. Because when a big event comes along like this, the temptation's always there to try and ride the wave. And it's what people on Twitter call clout chasing. At least that's what I think it is. But we've just seen something very similar happen about a month ago with that Fine Sarah stuff, and I watched the numbers of the streamers that were involved. They're no longer benefiting. Even Mike, the guy who was looking for his daughter, the numbers indicate that he is no longer benefiting from all that hype he stirred up a month ago when his daughter went missing. There's two ways you can grow a channel with these types of things. You can either do so by riding other people's coattails and hoping you never run out of coattails to ride. Like, oh, what's trending? Let's make videos about that. Oh, what's trending? Let's stream about that. What's the hot gossip? Let's gossip about that. There's certainly plenty of personalities out there that have made careers out of this. And some of them even left all of it because they wanted to just stop being the person who was always reacting to stuff all the time. But you can ride other people's coattails, or you can actually do your own work, build your own thing, develop relationships with others who like your stuff and come and watch and eventually support, if they like it enough. That's how tipping works, by the way. You do the work, you put on the good show, you impress people, and they decide to tip you for it. That's how these dono systems really should work, not these playing games with your audience. If I get 5 Twitch Primes, I'll stand on my head. No. People do that, of course. Some people do that just for entertainment. There are channels that thrive off of the back and forth between the streamer and the audience. The thing is, though, with everything that's going on with all of this, you got to keep your head on straight. So I've read the legal docket. I've read the legal document about what's being alleged. If this stuff's going on, and that's a thing, this is America, this is a democracy, people are innocent until proven guilty. So they are innocent until something proves them guilty. They will shift from innocent to guilty in the eyes of the law. And there's different standards for evidence as well. Beyond the shadow of a reasonable doubt, this, that, and the other, da-da-da. There are these standards in the justice system for a reason. And the big reason why I'm not going to join the hate train against Blizzard right now is quite specifically because I understand these things. There's people that are already essentially judge, jury, and executioner. They've sworn off Blizzard products. I'm keeping an eye on various Twitter search results. Folks, none of your rants on Twitter are hidden, unless you private your account, which raises eyebrows because people think you did something bad. Nothing on Twitter. Twitter is incredibly searchable. Someone who knows how to use especially the advanced search feature can dig up dirt on you at any time unless you take your tweets down. And even if you do, the reactions to your tweets will stay up. So if you insult a bunch of people and you delete your tweet, people can look up the reactions to your incendiary tweet and find out you made an incendiary tweet. And then some people who like to connect the dots in their head, even if they're dots that aren't there, can draw conclusions about you because the context is now gone because you deleted your tweet. Twitter is not the place where you have temper tantrums, throw fits, and rant to just your friends. It's not Facebook. Twitter is very searchable and very public by default. And there's enough toxic behavior on Twitter that if you try to private your Twitter, people will suspect you did something wrong. It's not Facebook. People are not conditioned to think that it's like personal social media with just you and your friends, even though Twitter has a private option. So, bottom line, behave yourself on Twitter. I'm keeping an eye on a couple of things with regards to queries and query results, which you can copy. When you search something on Twitter, you can actually copy the link and paste it in a tweet and say, hey, check this out, keep an eye on da-da-da-da-da. Or off-site, like I did with all the people who make a big deal out of becoming Twitch affiliates when it's not worth making a big deal about. Twitter is practically a search engine in its own right. So all you people out there that are freaking out about Blizzard, it is very easy for someone to find out that you jump to conclusions about things, you make knee-jerk snap judgments, and you're overall very emotionally wound up, and they shouldn't associate with you. This is one of the reasons why I talk about Twitch streamers who become Twitch affiliates, think they're hot stuff, and then they go on Twitter and go on these giant Twitter storms, and then they cry about how their channel's not growing. Well, yeah. Your first impressions on Twitter are not good. And you're blatantly attaching your Twitter to your, oh, visit my Twitch stream. So when I talk about angry 20 viewer Twitch affiliates, it often is someone with like 10 concurrents, 20 concurrents. And they don't seem to realize their behavior is what's going to keep them small. If the tiniest little thing sends you off the edge, that is a first and a final impression to a lot of level-headed people out there, as well as people who know a lot about how all this works. You're going to drive away the smart people by doing this and be left with people that don't know much about this, toxic people. Your audience, bottom line, will get worse. And then you'll be like, the internet is so toxic, when in reality, it was your behavior that caused all of that. So all the people who are blowing up about this, swearing off Blizzard products and whatnot, let this court case do its thing and learn how big companies work. There's not a doubt in my mind that either because of the court case or because of brand damage, there will be changes at Blizzard. And I would not be surprised if there was a leadership change, including but not limited to J. Allen Brack stepping down as CEO. Because part of what you do as a leader in a big business like that is you take ownership for what happens on your watch. Now, some of the stuff that's going around, I'm not going to get into the details because they're pretty disgusting and pretty offensive and insulting. You'll be very disgusted to learn that the people who made World of Warcraft can be accused of even doing stuff like this. It's awful stuff. But with how ridiculous this is, there's not a doubt that the state of California and their legal team will have some kind of evidence that they're going to bring before the judge that would prove in court, if it goes that far and doesn't turn into a settlement, that stuff like that happened. When that is concrete like that, that is brand damage and something bad that happened on the CEO's watch. And even if they don't get that far, if people don't like your stuff because of all that and people keep talking about all of that indefinitely, you're going to need to do something to show consumers that you're going to try and turn over a new leaf. And that will include, with what I know about companies, I guarantee you that's going to include at least one high-profile resignation somewhere in the company. There's probably going to be this is all speculation, but there's probably going to be a whole bunch of stuff that happens with Blizzard as a result of this, regardless of how the case goes. More so if it goes against Blizzard's favor or they try and push for a settlement. This is what I think is going to happen with all this. There will be people who resign because there will be people who get termed because of this. There will also be people who resign because of this. And there will be people who will resign not because of that, but simply because they don't want to be associated with it. So there's brand damage, there's brand damage. What's up, Beta? There's brand damage. There's the ability to hire and retain talent. So there's competitiveness. There's all kinds of stuff that's on the edge because of these allegations and the way people view them. There will need to be PR moves and stuff. So that's why, I resubbed to WoW while everyone's mad at Blizzard. And that's more of me being a nerd. I'm curious how much different the experience is with World of Warcraft right now, because I've known WoW to have a lot of drama in it a lot of the times. You get kids playing it. It's a cartoon game. You'll get some immature person with like some elf princess or something for their character, and they start loot drama in a raid or something like that. I've known WoW to be a pretty wound up game for most of its existence, but I'm older. Today, you've got folks saying that sort of stuff about Overwatch, but World of Warcraft, I've known that to be a problem with this game for a very long time. It's one of the reasons why my main MMO is still, by the way, is still in the midst of all this mess, ESO. Out of World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, and Elder Scrolls Online, I am most interested in ESO Blackwood and making progress in ESO. But with everything that's going on and all the people that have been freaking out on Twitter who have sworn off Blizzard products, they're probably going to go make Final Fantasy worse because they're jumpy, they're knee-jerky, they make snap judgments without thinking things through. That looks like I'm asking for money. They make snap judgments without thinking things through. So a lot of these jumpy people have exodus the game, or they're sitting in Ouroboros or something doing a protest or something. But there's probably a lot of people that have left the game that are very jumpy and prone to drama. So if I want to play any WoW at all, retail, classic, BC classic, this is probably a very good time. Strangely enough, it's an unintended consequence of what's going on with Blizzard. But this is probably a very, very good time to play WoW if you want less drama, because a lot of these people that freak out about stuff have sworn off the game. If anything, they're probably going to go over to Final Fantasy and jump the queues way up and cause drama there. And Final Fantasy, let me tell you, I've known Final Fantasy to have some of the worst player behavior out of all the MMOs that I play. And it's crazy, too, because if you know how the lodestone works, Final Fantasy's character directory, the answer to the armory that was what Blizzard's character profiles used to be called for WoW, you'll know that Final Fantasy does it by account, not by character name. So if you have a bad person in your guild and they start drama and they ruin your raid groups or your trial groups, as they be called, your dungeon runs, your experience, take their lodestone link, put it in a bookmark or something like that, they can name change, server change, race change, use all the paid services, all they want. You will still be able to see and avoid them, because the link will keep working no matter how many paid changes they make to their character. They'd have to make a brand new service account in order to escape that. So it's a lot worse if you're a bad human being to your fellow players in Final Fantasy than it is in WoW, where someone ninja looted and then they did a character transfer to another server and they changed everything, so I don't know where they went. Yeah, that doesn't happen with Final Fantasy. So Final Fantasy, yeah, I imagine there'll probably be an uptick in drama there and whatnot because of all the people that are jumpy like that. But WoW should be pretty chill. I'm actually going to do some streaming of WoW while everyone's furious about Blizzard. maybe earlier tomorrow evening too, as well, so I can catch closer to US prime time as opposed to later at night instead of doing these kinds of discussions. I have to squeeze in the chores a little earlier than normal. But it's crazy, you know, all that terrible stuff that allegedly happened at Blizzard, and we'll let the justice system work that out. There's not a doubt in my mind, after a 2-year investigation by the state of California, some of the lawyers on the state side can definitely probably come up with something that, you know, passes the thresholds for innocent until proven guilty. Not a doubt in my mind. I mean, if this isn't some random twit longer from someone who had a bad day. This is a 2-year investigation that generated these charges. So we'll see how it goes, and I bet any money it has more of a chance of going somewhere than a bunch of random people accusing a random person of doing something. But bottom line is, part of corporate America is that companies exist independently of the people that run them. You just fill spots in a corporation. And I'll tell you, Blizzard and Warcraft have way too much of a history with gamers. I mean, what Blizzard needs to do, obviously, if the investigation turns up that this stuff's been going on, and even an internal investigation if HR is doing something there. So if there's a reason enough to let people go, those people need to be let go. Then the people involved need to change. Maybe some in-game references need to change. Alex Avraziabi was referenced, and there's also the Fraz Siabi cigar shop in Stratholme. Maybe that reference is replaced with something else in retail WoW. But the thing is, we have to keep in mind, anytime you have someone or something let you down like this, is that your relationships with human beings are not going to be cut and dry. There's more politics, including BS politics, in our lives than we would care to admit. You may be friends with somebody or like a product or service for years and then find out about a skeleton in their closet. You know, something they were hiding. Maybe they weren't deliberately trying to hide it, but you find out something else. And then you got to figure out how to maturely handle that. So with what's going on with Blizzard right now, let the system do its thing. Let the court case do its thing. And the company, by the way, if they want to do the right thing, there's going to be some internal stuff they're going to have to do as well. So it's not a matter of, do I think anyone's going to lose their job at Blizzard because of these allegations? I think somebody will be resigning. The question is who and when. So it's not just about whether the court case comes up with something. It's about, will people buy your stuff because of the reputation that you have with the general public? And that's where I think most of the changes are going to come from. So until that all gets sorted out, and these things take time, but I'm sure they will, until these things get sorted out, it's probably going to be the best WoW experience I've ever had, because a lot of jumpy people who jump to conclusions, get all worked up about stuff, have sworn off the game. So I'll bet I could run dungeons, do outdoor questing, do all kinds of other stuff. I'll bet I could do all kinds of stuff in WoW and have a blast right now until this blows over, simply because of the side effects of people's jumpy behavior like this. I know a lot of super jumpy, angry people have left the game. Why don't I go and play catch up in BFA or something? Plus, it's not like I was subscribed to WoW anyways. I was checking my numbers when I resubbed. I haven't played the game since February. So even if I sub for a month, enjoy the more peaceful WoW experience and whatnot, even if I sub for a month and enjoy the more peaceful WoW experience and unsub again, because I'm more interested in ESO than World of Warcraft. And I also still, by the way, if you've seen my radio styles from when Shadowlands came out, I still have a problem with the way they design Shadowlands and Chromie time and stuff like that, and their emphasis on player agency, but not going so far as the player freedom that exists in ESO and to a lesser extent Final Fantasy. I do still have some philosophical problems with the snootiness that Blizzard has shown towards their own player base and customer base. So part of me, when I found out about this crap that's going on, I was like, guess they've had that coming, because what I've seen from them and from an interpersonal perspective towards the customers wasn't good. Couldn't imagine that there wasn't some employee thing that was going bad as well. Of course that was. Of course I'm not surprised, basically, that this kind of stuff came out. So, but for the time being, I mentioned the Wall Street movie where there's two rich guys involved in that movie, for those of you who haven't seen it. Gordon Gekko and some British guy, Larry Wildman, that's his name. So, Sir Larry Wildman. And then there's the stock trader guy, Bud Fox, played by Charlie Sheen. So, in that movie, there's a part where Gordon Gekko, he's a Scroogey kind of guy and whatnot. His rival, the British guy, wants to take him down a peg. And so he sets up the rich guy. He sets up Gordon Gekko to lose a crap ton of money on the stock market as the stock price tumbles. And he's like, oh, yeah, well, you know what? I might as well buy up a few shares here and, to throw them if you're whatever. So basically what he does is, as the stock price crashes, he buys a bit. And at a certain point, he goes on a buying spree and takes over a lot of ownership of the company from Gordon Gekko. So that's what I liken this to. Like, what the heck are you resubbing to WoW in the midst of all this for? Well, number one, I'm behind in terms of actually supporting Blizzard, so they're not actually making up for any lost ground by me doing this, but I am legit curious as to whether or not this can actually give me the most relaxed, drama-free World of Warcraft experience I've had in years. Besides the philosophy of the developers and the way they treat players, especially when they play dumb about other games having better ideas than WoW, like Guild Wars 2, ESO, Final Fantasy 14, even Star Wars: The Old Republic with its cinematic storytelling and stuff like that. I've seen this Blizzard hubris for years, and I've known about the old proverb for years. Pride goes before destruction and haughtiness before a fall. But Blizzard isn't gaining back any ground with them not impressing me by me checking out, probably for just like a 1-month sub period. Certainly not going to keep this sub going any longer than usual, or any longer than I need to. Blizzard's not making up for lost ground with me as a customer by me being curious as to whether WoW has mellowed out a lot, because we know these angry people on Twitter just Twitter search the right stuff, and you'll see everybody's tweets on it that's swearing off Blizzard, if not swearing off Blizzard and going over to Final Fantasy. I have query search results over on my Twitter. I'll keep an eye on both. When all the buzz dies down, I might cancel my sub again. You know how it goes. WoW players are never truly gone from their precious game, including me. But, so yeah, let the justice system do its thing. With how ridiculously insane this stuff is, these allegations are, there's got to be something. If the state of California spent 2 years putting a case together like this, there's got to be something that these folks can come up with that'll pass, court muster and whatnot. And then, besides the bad press from the allegations, when more of this stuff becomes concrete in any way, that's when you start seeing companies do what companies do in order to keep people buying their products and services. So I expect terminations, I expect resignations, I expect people leaving in disgust, and I expect Blizzard to try to be humbled at least a little bit in all of this. But Blizzard's never been that humble of a company as long as WoW's been a thing. You know how many times I've seen blues on the forums being snooty towards players, even if the players were right? You know how long that's been going on? I think Blizzard would be a tough nut to crack. I left WoW as my main MMO years ago to make ESO my main MMO for a reason. And I prefer ESO over both World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 14 for a reason. And the attitude of the developers is part of that reason. To say nothing of Elder Scrolls' tiebacks to the offline games and the player freedom. No other MMO does that better, by the way. Not even Final Fantasy. So some people don't like that. Asmongold doesn't like that. Asmongold didn't think there was enough of a coherent story in ESO. Well, that's part of how Elder Scrolls games work. You have a main quest, which all of the ESO and the expansions have, but for the most part, there's plenty of side quests and zone quests and faction quests and other stuff to do. It's a sandbox. Of course. It's a sandbox. Of course. Of course it might not resemble Wrath of the Lich King or something like that. But that's part of why I like ESO. I could do stuff in any order, unlike Shadowlands, where I have literally everything before Shadowlands through Chromie time that I can do it at most. Once I'm high enough level, I can go do as much of everything before Shadowlands as zone stories, dungeons, etc. as I want by locking my character's level at 49 and staying in Chromie time indefinitely, and only going to 50 when it's time when I want to start Shadowlands on a character. ESO doesn't do that. If there's a certain part like Clockwork City or whatnot I want to blow off, I can do literally everything else in the game and go back and do Clockwork City. The stories are designed, of course, that there's this little awkwardness between them as possible when it comes to, you know, not wanting retcons or anything like that. But bottom line is there's more player freedom in ESO than there is in WoW. So none of these allegations about Blizzard surprise me. I think I'd be surprised if we didn't have some kind of scandal with the kind of arrogance that we've seen from Blizzard over the years. I'm sure there's other people out there. It's like shock humor. I don't think what shock comedians and shock jocks joke about and shock people with to get their ratings and whatnot, I don't think it's something that the average listener, viewer, etc. couldn't have thought of. I think it's something that we could have thought of. We're just shocked that someone actually did it. They did the bad thing. They told the crass joke. In this case, the arrogance in Blizzard's culture, which customers who've played WoW have known about for a very long time, finally turned into something terrible, which now has to go through the court system, and we'll see what happens. But I'm going to check out WoW while all the folks that are upset about this are off playing something else. Imagine WoW's probably a nice chill place right now. Especially in the off hours I play. I gave myself a little preview last night. I was in an empty Stormwind for like 3 minutes in WoW Classic last night until cross-realm zones populated people in. And even then, really, really empty Duskwood. My character never got past level 31. I got bored and whatnot. Would off played. Well, in original vanilla, I got to level 40 and then left the game for 6 months because I was bored. So, no surprise, history repeated itself with the OG WoW Classic. But, yeah. Blizzard? Yeah, well, Blizzard will... Look, the way these things work is that no matter what it looks like now, Blizzard will have to sort this out. Even if they get the case settled out of court. Now, even if they can find a way to avoid some bad PR, they're going to have the other bad PR to deal with. And that, I think, is going to lead to at least a resignation high up, probably J. Allen Brack. You know, if not some other people as well. But there's going to be a talent exodus. There's going to be people who are going to see this ding to Blizzard's reputation and not want to work for them. So their bottom line is, no matter how upset you are at Blizzard right now, there is going to be something that happens to Blizzard in some way. If not through the justice system, then through market conditions. Because reputation, it means something in corporate America, at least as much as it does among individuals. We've been talking for an hour. Can you believe it? But that finally is the end of the recap topics. We're going to take a break, play some music, get up and stretch and stuff like that. And when we come back, this will be cut from the replay, by the way. So those of you watching after the fact, enjoy the, I think we'll do it after one song or whatever, or something. We're going to play some Stream Beats, Synthwave. Let's all stretch for a bit, come back and talk about YouTube's super thanks and the bursting streaming bubble, the part of the stream that will be worth making into its own spin-off video. We'll be back. How's that for one Stream Beat Synthwave song? Short break, you bet. Let's get some music going, by the way. So we got Synthwave in here. I did download Stream Beats Hi-Fi, but I have no idea where it went. So we'll just load up some Stream Beats here. How's the volume here? 7%. I can hear it in the headsets. That's all that matters. Yep, good. As long as there's proper audio ducking between everything. All right. This is the part of the discussion that's going to be made into the spin-off video. Those of you who want to see the hour of recap, be sure to check out the full replay for those of you watching after the fact. All right, it's in the title. We need to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. Let's talk about it. Super thanks and the streaming bubble bursting. Super thanks is the latest in the YouTube Supers category. Thank you again for King Europe for the super chat earlier in the show. Super thanks. Get Firefox ready to go here. Super thanks, YouTube, super thanks. So, super thanks, what is it? It started out as it's basically a dono button for videos, not eligible for things that are live. Let me actually verify that that's the case too. Load everything up here. Lack of a dark mode with all these browser windows. It's great. It's not available for this, right? Because that's what Super Chat is for. YouTube super thanks. Streaming bubble will burst. Mute. Yep, it is not visible in the UI. Good stuff. So here's the thing. YouTube traditionally has had a very aggressive culture among the users towards the idea of monetization. So people would call you an e-beggar or something like that. But super thanks is the final version, or the release candidate or whatnot version of viewer applause. I'm just looking for the YouTube help. All right, there's a YouTube blog entry for this. So what it basically is those of you that know the difference between a dono and a donation. Dono is the informal streaming term. Donation is you're a 501c3 and you're authorized legally as a business to take donations. But what super thanks is actually a YouTube blog entry just posted July 20th, 2021. So basically what it is, the dono button, it puts an animation over the screen and gives you a special comment in the comments section as well as showcasing what you purchased the super for and whatnot. So the big issue I have with super thanks, or YouTube applause, it used to formerly be known as, and I think there's a little demo right here of it as well. Let's see. Let's link let's link up Firefox and make sure that it doesn't show live control room. There we go. Make sure it shows the right thing. And let's actually let's put this demo on the screen and let's actually cut this down. Let's cut this down and so that you can just have the demo on the screen here. So let's see. Bring this. Actually, let's uncrop this and let's just scroll down a little. So this is actually what super thanks look like. There's different price points for various applauses, but what it basically is, it's a dono button for videos. Now, this idea is something that I used to consider to be rather contrived. I want to make myself bigger and whatnot. It's a rather contrived idea because a lot of the reasons why donoing works so well for live streams is because of the instant live reaction. So I think if any YouTubers want to be taken seriously with this stuff, one of the things that YouTubers need to very seriously talk about when it comes to super thanks is how are you going to incorporate this into your channel? If a video gets a super thanks, I think it's only the person that posted that sees the balloons. Maybe I think the creator sees it too. But whoops, wrong pipe almost. Don't want to be coughing on stream. So you have this sort of thing going on. You get the little animation and stuff, and a comment shows up. Laura Mipsum. Nice joke on Lorem Ipsum, YouTube. You get this thing showing up on the screen, and of course there's a thing. It's kind of like super chat, but it's not after the fact, but it's not instant. So you get the comment, you get the thing, and things along those lines. Platform benefits, creator benefits. So I think every YouTuber who has this needs to look at ways to implement this into what they do on their channel. In my case, I think I would incorporate it maybe into stream shoutouts or even make videos or whatnot to recognize all of this. Now, why am I such a big fan of internal systems? Because internal systems keep everything internal, The platform can create perks like custom emojis and things like that for things like channel memberships and stuff. Although, one thing that I really think YouTube needs to think about, especially if they get inspiration from Twitch, which I kind of know they do for some of the things they say in Creator Insider, they just don't mention it by name. One of the things that I think YouTube needs to do, allow a certain tier of YouTube memberships that gives viewers ad-free viewing of your channel. And I set it to where, I don't know, maybe the platform can have a minimum or something if they have to insist on something. But set it to where, well, if that's the case, then I don't know why you'd want, for example, if you had like a $5 a month and a $10 a month tier, why would you actually have the $5 a month with no ads and the $10 a month one with ads? It wouldn't make any sense. It'd be stupid. But part of the issue with some of this, though, with YouTube memberships is that it's a little bit more contrived compared to, say, a sub on Twitch and whatnot, because people are still getting used to the idea that you can support for X a month, you know, someone directly for X dollars a month, as opposed to having to depend on ad revenue and stuff. But I think that's something they could incorporate into that. But yeah, YouTube and platforms have the option of adding perks to these sorts of things. As opposed, and the big thing too is, people on the internet, myself included, tend not to like things taking more clicks than absolutely necessary. Let me just bump this over a little. People on the internet tend not to like stuff taking more clicks than absolutely necessary. So if you can support someone without having to go over to Stream Elements or without having to break away from what it is that you're doing, it's easier and more convenient to do so, and the platform gets a cut. So, and that's one of the things YouTube needs as well. I know people were upset about the adpocalypse, but the world is changing to the point where this type of stuff doesn't have as much of an emphasis on advertising as it did before, because there's other forms of what's called scalable revenue for these platforms to pay their bills with, or try to anyways. And one of those is people supporting other creators. I think the big question that YouTube's going to have to answer sooner rather than later is, how do YouTubers fit into their platform? How do YouTubers fit into their platform if they're not very advertiser friendly, but they have an audience that's constantly throwing supers? Right now, the YouTube Partner Program is really all linked together. If your channel gets demonetized, you lose access to everything, including stuff that has nothing to do with advertising. So YouTube needs to come up with a solution so that if someone's not very advertiser friendly, they don't lose everything, because by definition, the platform's going to lose everything too. If YouTube can wean itself off of this advertising thing and keep it as, you know, a source of revenue for the platform, but not the source of revenue, then YouTube will have a much better future when they're not having to worry about adpocalypses, because, okay, all right, we'll just turn off advertising for the people that aren't ad friendly, and it's not going to matter because there's other things people can do if they want to support creators. And of course, if you want to pick up advertising as part of channel revenue, you're going to be encouraged to make stuff that's more ad friendly via the system itself. But I can tell you, YouTubers are already a step ahead of the platform on this. Demonetization, I mean, you'll see a channel that is persistently getting demonetized, meaning no ad revenue, or getting kicked out of the ad program entirely. You'll see channels that'll be like, they'll have sponsor deals, they'll sell merch, they'll have like a Patreon or something. So many YouTubers who have problems with advertiser friendliness already have their plan B in action. You'll hear about it in their videos. They may even style everything up like, the man's out to get me. YouTube is censoring me and demonetizing my videos. Please support me on blah, 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 instead of, you know. And there's a compelling interest, obviously, from a business perspective in YouTube making that not necessary. So I think it's inevitable. I think it's completely inevitable that YouTube will eventually split off advertising, especially when, from everything else, especially when YouTube is long overdue for some kind of first level monetization tier for creators, because YouTube infamously has some of the worst qualifications to even get into the program in the first place. A year-long evaluation period, 4,000 public watch hours, 1,000 subscribers. Some of that is because YouTube had to dial everything back a couple of years ago to keep the ad revenue not ridiculous for the people that were in the program. But if YouTube has to scale who has access to ad revenue based on the size of your channel, why should that undercut their ability to scale what they can bring in from people who may not have enough activity to have advertising be significant for them, but they could get a fan base with supporters in other ways? This is a question I've been asking for months at this point. And considering Super Thanks took so long to get out of beta, it spent its beta life since February 2020, I think. Right? Maybe even 2019, I have to check. It was in beta for over a year. That's what we're talking about here. It was in beta for over a year. It's crazy, you know, right? It was in beta for over a year, and this has been overdue for so long. So that Super Thanks, yeah, you buy an applause thing. It puts a special comment similar to if someone does a super chat in the chat and stuff like that, lights it up and stuff like that in the comments section. Creator can respond and they'll see it and whatnot. And the creator can respond in a later video, stream intro during the shout out period, whatever it is. But I think the biggest challenge to Super Thanks is that it's not an instant reaction. I mean, if you have, for example, a good looking Twitch streamer girl who like dances to K-pop or something when someone tips $5 or something, then, I mean, that's the sort of thing where, oh yeah, she'll do a dance for like a minute or so. I mean, that's the sort of thing some people can, you know, appreciate and regularly do. But if that's not live and it's not an instant reaction, how do you justify that other than you like the person and want to support what it is that they do? Without going into PBS mode or whatnot, where we're going to have this big drive, big subathon. Come on, everybody, support everything. This is listener supported. I'm sure you've probably seen those if you've seen any PBS. Every so often, they have this thing where they're always soliciting donations and stuff like that. But that's the thing with this sort of thing. Super Thanks, cool idea. It fills a gap that has been missing from YouTube's monetization setup for a very long time. The question is, when will people kind of become more comfortable with it? Because YouTube's culture has traditionally been antagonistic towards financial support of creators. Even if you're talking about fun money or stuff that can actually, even if you're talking about stuff that could bankroll like future videos or something, like raising money for a trip somewhere, or in my case, one of the big things I do with supers, ad revenue, etc., is I keep a spreadsheet of how much I can spend before I start spending my own money again. And so any tech purchase for tech videos that doesn't make any sense to do on my own will fund that with stuff that comes from this other stuff. So that's an option available as well. I mean, people talk about making money on these platforms like, oh, you don't want to get another job, you're lazy. No, actually. It could be the case that if you have, for example, folks who are like, don't spend money that you don't need to, you can tell them, I didn't, because the folks who support what I do are the reason why I bought the new power supply for mid-naughts. I bought the 8320E and that motherboard for Tuxedo when the motherboard died. Now, I did all of that. And it's sort of thing where that's where people's support went, was to stuff that's used to make more videos. So reinvest back in what it is that you're doing. Very common thing in business. But this sort of thing with Super Thanks has been missing for a long time. And quite frankly, it fills a gap between YouTube and Twitch. It's gonna be very interesting with how supers and memberships advance YouTube versus what Twitch managed to take out of it in the last couple of years. All right, what is the history of monetization on YouTube versus Twitch? Why am I talking about this? So, once upon a time, people called YouTube partnership or monetization what it actually is: ad revenue sharing. There are even competitors to YouTube like Revamp back in the early days of this stuff that sold their platforms based on the fact that you as a creator were able to keep your revenue from, or not keep your, but we're able to get an actual ad revenue share. I think that even went into the name for Revamp, like Rev-er, etc. I think that even went into the name of the platform. So it eventually grew into something where YouTube partnership, ad revenue sharing, etc. Then it somehow became known as monetization. But eventually we got to the point where monetization on YouTube was basically ad stuff. Starting in the 2010s, though, over on Twitch, you had streamers soliciting donations, as they call them, although the legal term is wrong. If you're not a 501c3, you really can't call them that for tax purposes. But the informal term donos kind of arose based on that. So I'll use the informal term most of the time, just so people know what I'm talking about, because they're actually tips. So, as a matter of fact, on YouTube, they recently reclassed it all, so it's counted as royalties in the tax systems, at least here in the US. So check the help file for up to the minute information on that one. But so the idea of supporting streamers started becoming a thing on Twitch. Next thing you know, you have subs, cheers, the whole 9 yards, and all this other stuff. And because it's flat amounts from people that are like, I like this guy, I'll toss him a couple of bucks, times X amount of people doing that, you could eclipse YouTube ad revenue relatively quickly. Take, for example, if you were just getting started as a monetized, barely monetized at that, YouTuber, and you're getting like $3 a month or whatever in ad revenue. One person deciding to sub to you on Twitch for $5 a month, actually 2 because the 50-50 sub split, at 2 Twitch subscribers, just 2, you're eclipsing the ad revenue. And so people figured this out. And at the same time, YouTube was taking a hit on the advertising side with the adpocalypses. Brands were furious and pulling ads and stuff like that. So YouTube had to scramble to develop what we now know as the demonetization system, but even still, the idea of like breathing wrong and some robot taking your ad revenue and whatnot because you're not advertiser friendly or whatever, that didn't sit well, obviously, with creators. And so with the adpocalypse and the disgruntled nature of it, we started seeing people leaving YouTube and going to Twitch, creating this Twitch streamer or this Twitch tuber thing that exists nowadays where people primarily want to stream on Twitch but have a YouTube channel on the side. So fundamentally, though, eventually it got to the point where I heard people say, hey, yeah, YouTube ad revenue is garbage. And of course, it fell enough to the point where YouTube gated it, creating the gates to the partner program that exists nowadays. There was a time when they let everyone be a partner once their channel got to a certain size, but now it's based on sustaining a certain channel size. But YouTube and ad revenue wasn't adding up. When people donoing flat amounts can easily eclipse ad revenue on a channel, especially smaller channels, it became, people figured it out and they wanted to be streamers. Problem is, streaming has drawbacks. You have to be live, you have to be streaming at relatively the same time so people know when to tune in. And a lot of what makes certain types of streams fun is not watching them after the fact. So there's a whole bunch of extra factors versus just releasing YouTube videos every so often that people can watch at their leisure or hit watch later or something on. There's a whole bunch of other stuff in play with being live versus making videos. But because Twitch streaming was way better than YouTubing, money-wise, people would go for that. Even if Twitch was a much smaller platform with far less technology and far less algorithms and stuff, so you can randomly get discovered by folks. Even if Twitch was, a very distant competitor. I mean, TikTok's even bigger than Twitch. You look at, for example, the size of Douyin TikTok versus the size of Twitch on top social medias like we did earlier. It's a surprise TikTok has grown to being bigger than Twitch. So all those people making cell phone videos and you can lightning round a whole bunch of people's TikToks at once in about 2 minutes really allows you to very easily follow a bunch of creators when everybody's limited to 60 seconds of video or longer nowadays, but can't be too long. Just like in the Twitter world. Just like what Twitter did to blogging. Tweeting used to be called micro-blogging. And people are like, you can barely type anything. How's that ever going to work? Yeah, well, look at Twitter nowadays. What do you hear more about, Twitter or WordPress? Twitter or Blogspot? Twitter or Blogger? What do you hear more? Some people say, what happened to blogging? Well, if you are reading a bunch of people's blogs, you have tweets versus blogs. What's easier to keep track of a whole bunch of people at once with? Tweets. They're shorter. It's not going to take you all night to get caught up. when you're scrolling through your Twitter feed. So similar with videos and whatnot. That's why short videos, you know, the tail that wagged the YouTube dog. YouTube's chasing after it with YouTube Shorts now, which is kind of work in progress. I don't see numbers that are anywhere near what I see with even the random stuff that I put on TikTok. But yeah, so the history of monetization is that YouTube, around the time of the adpocalypse, fell behind. And so they've had some catch-up they've needed to make. But how to make some of the things that work in a live streaming environment work with uploads has been the real question here. And so super thanks to the answer that folks like myself have been looking for a very long time. And I'm very happy to see that my channel was eligible very shortly after the feature launched. So it's now on my videos. So when I go and revamp everything for better discoverability, because tags have been replaced by titles and descriptions in terms of how important they are with the search engine and everything like that, we can go through and we can do some things here and there, put some stuff in the descriptions and whatnot, and work on all the after the fact stuff, because I found out very early on YouTube's not very good at stuff that is time sensitive if you're not a big channel. You're not going to win in terms of the algorithm and search results. Matter of fact, there's a problem with growing on YouTube from zero nowadays that didn't exist a couple of years ago because of the way the algorithms work these days. But discussing that's beyond the scope of tonight's discussion. But that's the history of monetization with YouTube and Twitch. Twitch came up with some stuff before YouTube did, and YouTube's had to play catch up. But with all the technology that Google brings to the table, YouTube is only a couple of notable design changes away from being a real monster across multiple forms of online media. So why is there a streaming bubble? We talked about it, we kind of blending the topics together here. The streaming bubble exists because there was a time, not long ago, when streaming was more worth it. If you wanted some kind of like way to like fund your stuff or try and make a full-time job out of it, streaming was better because it had stuff that videos didn't. So here we are at a time when YouTube's having adpocalypse after adpocalypse after adpocalypse. They're turning around and getting into the partner program in the first place, while Twitch is like, cheers, bits, subs, then you can get partner deals, brand deals, sponsors, merch, the whole 9 yards. I mean, the money side of, and a far less aggressive culture on Twitch for financially supporting creators. That might be called into question as the mainstream media gets into streaming, because if you can pay $5 a month to tier 1 sub to one of your favorite streamers on Twitch versus $5 a month for Discovery Plus if you like more than one television show that's available through that, why wouldn't the Disney Pluses and the Discovery Pluses of the world start putting pressure on the fan bases of streamers who are selling their monthly thing for the same price? So you have maybe some IRL streamer who streams 4 or 5 hours a day, hopefully at the same time, hopefully semi-consistently, versus a 24-hour TV channel. Or access to something like a miniature version of Netflix that's only for one rights holder. I really wonder about what Disney Plus and Discovery Plus and all these Plus services are going to do to Twitch streamers now that the big guys are getting involved. If you have a favorite show of some sort that you can binge watch, why wouldn't you pay your $5 a month to Discovery or Disney and have access to movies, all kinds of other stuff, versus some live streamer and whatever they're doing? See what I mean? So I'm not emphasizing. I was already convinced not to try and be a full-time content creator just from what it does to YouTubers who didn't even stream. Never mind what it's going to be like these days. And then you got people out there trying to sell. Got people out there that are trying to sell. Let's make your stream better. Do you want a bigger? Let's make your stream bigger. Do you really want a bigger stream when all this stuff's about to happen? I'd say whoever shows up, shows up. And if you don't like that you don't have a big audience when you're live, cater your streams so they're watchable after the fact. Erode away that disadvantage that streams have versus videos with the time sensitivity of them. Get some show flow. Put on a show. Oh, my chat isn't full of people spamming Dankies or Pepe Laugh every 2 seconds, so I'm going to give folks something to listen to that's worth listening to instead. You know? I mean, television didn't evolve into this unorganized mess like a lot of live streaming is nowadays. It evolved into what it is because, quite simply, what wound up working with the format, whether live TV or syndicated TV, or anything of that sort. But the streaming bubble largely exists because YouTube was in trouble for a while. When you could only get ad revenue, and then that had to be dialed back, and then the advertisers were pulling their ads, and all kinds of other stuff, and the numbers sunk, and they had to gate them, so maybe your channel wasn't big enough to stay monetized, blah, 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 and now things are changing again. Of course you'd become a streamer. Of course you would become a streamer instead of a YouTuber. But now, ask yourself this question. Ignore the big guys. Ignore Disney Plus. Ignore Discovery Plus. Ignore Paramount Plus. Ignore all those Plus services where you spend $5 a month to gain access to a rights holder's back catalog. Ignore all the Plus services out there. Let's talk about streamer versus YouTuber. You have a Twitch streamer. Your $5 a month supports their Twitch streams, which are then front and center and take over everything they do. Maybe they hire an editor or something to make YouTube videos that are just the streams. So it's always some unorganized stream, and you may not like it after a while because it just takes up too much of your time having someone on screen all the time. Or maybe you like multiple people who stream at the same time. You're like, oh crap, who do I watch on what night? See, all this baggage that's associated with streaming. Or how about YouTube? So it's real easy if you can't watch a streamer all the time, and Twitch streams are best when they're live. Your content is dead if you're not live, especially with the lack of discoverability that Twitch is infamous for. And how about inferior technology for being discovered, algorithms, video after the fact in general, or even DMCA? Now, at least they tried to update their system so strikes can expire now if you get copyright strikes, but that's another discussion. Now let's imagine YouTube. You have a $5 a month membership tier. And if someone doesn't feel like streaming, or they're too busy to stream, they make videos instead. Or they make YouTube shorts, or they do something. And you like a little of everything that they do, even though they don't stream all the time. Way harder to think that your $5 is being wasted, especially on a platform with a very robust background in supporting after the fact stuff. In supporting evergreen stuff. And we just wandered into the next topic. Oh, it's going to be so hard. But yeah, that's why there's a streaming bubble. At some point, YouTube fell behind and they had to catch up. And now here they are, catching up. Why will the streaming bubble burst? Because this is stuff that YouTube didn't have before that it does now. And when you compare the differences between YouTube and Twitch, with their emphasis on live only, no content ID system, and all the other problems that Twitch routinely has, at some point, and then when you look at just format versus format, making videos versus streaming, eventually, if you critically think about it, videos start looking more interesting if you don't give up your ability to progress as a creator in order to make them. So with super thanks, you have a dono button on videos. With memberships, you have a sub button essentially for people making videos. It's an omni-channel, omni-media answer to something like Twitch with these new features that are out. Next up, Fwiz and all the YouTube brass need to come up with a plan to allow people access to non-advertising revenue earlier than when they qualify to get ad revenue. An affiliate program, if you want to call it that, whatever. But right now, there's all of this monetization that has nothing to do with ads available for creators, and let the content sink or swim. Let people get used to this idea and then see if people start donoing. You know? Now it's time for YouTube to take this in that direction. YouTube's catching up. You have the stuff that you get from Twitch, but it's not just on the live streams. It can be on the videos as well. I could stop streaming for 2 months. Folks like King Europe would still have options if I made a good enough video that they liked. He did a super chat earlier, by the way. And by the way, it doesn't take very many super chats with the current state of YouTube ad revenue now that the bubble's bursting from all the lockdowns to surpass what ad revenue would be. Now here's the fun part. Because we the people, if we tip a few folks here and there, we the people can easily get past ad revenue so easily that eliminates the drive to have lots of ads. Get a creator to the point where they feel like turning off mid-rolls, they turn off mid-rolls. In my case, I have mid-rolls turned off on the tech videos because I want those to be very binge-watchable, and I have yet to see YouTube's algorithms that are supposed to smartly place ad breaks to balance creator revenue and viewer experience. I have yet to see them do that. I made an hour-long video about mice last go-around, computer mice, and I tried mid-rolls, and the place where the robot put everything was so jarring. I was like, nope, turn it back off. I don't care that it's an hour long. These streams, however, that are a lot less organized, just talking off the cuff like this, if it gets random like that with mid-rolls, oh well. But for my YouTube videos, for the tech videos in particular, I want people to be able to binge watch the heck out of those. You find out about Tuxedo, for example, or the Delosaurus sitting back there in the shadows. Ooh. And like, hey, this computer. Hey, what's the deal with this computer? What's the story of this computer? I have a playlist. The story of the Delosaurus, the story of Delosaurus Rex, the story of Tuxedo, the story of Midnaughts. You click it in the end screen, you get the backstory. But you're not going to get to that end screen if you're annoyed by ads halfway through. YouTube can get their money from how binge-watchable the tech videos are, not from jarring up someone's experience with 3 or 4 mid-rolls in a 15-minute video, which I've seen, by the way. There are certain, even among the mainstream media, like MSNBC versus The Hill versus CNN versus Fox News versus any big media outlet, Bloomberg, C-SPAN, Reuters. There are certain channels I'm watching on YouTube now and not watching others because of mid-rolls. The robots just don't work well enough to not jar up my experience with a piece of content with too many mid-rolls in too short a time period. But if YouTube can make up for that with the people side of it as well, as well as the ads, drop the mid-rolls because you're a partner and you have the option of turning them off, give your viewers a better experience no matter how much it hurts your bottom line, and make up for that when people are binge watching more. Someone new to your channel, what's this Delosaurus? Let me go back to the beginning and watch the whole darn story. Because you know what? Sorry, YouTubers, myself included, we can get full of ourselves sometimes, and Netflix has been a thing the whole time. Netflix predates YouTube. Yeah, like a show series on DVD Netflix back in the day before YouTube existed and binge watched like The Sopranos or something. And in today's wonderful world, well, you got binge watching on Netflix and now binge watching on YouTube as well. So YouTube making up this ground, cool stuff. There needs to be more though. The more progress YouTube makes, and hopefully without features taking years to get out of beta, the more progress that YouTube makes, the more they're going to assert their position in the online media world. But yeah, the streaming bubble will burst as YouTube catches up. Now let's conclude this discussion by talking about this bursting bubble. Current state of other commentators I keep an eye on. So I've been familiarizing myself with the updates on a lot of folks who've done commentaries about the multimedia meta. So let's rattle them off. Nick Nimmin, always Mr. YouTube guy, still does streaming and other stuff. He'll be like the control example because he's always been on the YouTube side of things. But let's take a look at the people that went over to the TwitchTuber world of things now. And what they've, and where they're at nowadays. Harris Heller decided to come over to YouTube, become a YouTube streamer. Devin Nash has some philosophical issues with Twitch right now. Made a big long video about how he doesn't want to stream on Twitch for the foreseeable future. I predict he becomes a YouTube streamer. That the urge to stream makes him eventually want to just come over and stream on YouTube. Let's see, who else? Ashley Christ has a regular job. in addition to all the stream coach stuff. Yeah, she can get incendiary from time to time on Twitter. But I found out about the whole thing where she joined that gaming studio or whatnot as community lead and stuff like that. So there's somebody, getting a job, getting some experience and not having to depend on, numbers and whatnot on the side. So let's see. Eagle Garrett does his thing. Big E bounces between the services, whatever works, depending on the terms of the contract and things like that. But people are waking up. People are Quirky Pixel, is doing a mix of stuff now. I gotta see what she's been doing on her channel. She took a break from things for a bit, but she's also already a part-time content creator who has a job, so I don't think there's anything wrong with content creators having jobs. Matter of fact, although you do less stuff, what you do make is probably better because you're not trying to pay the bills with it. You have more creative freedom with these kinds of setups. So I think that would be a cool thing as well. But you think of these names of these folks, especially Harris Heller, who has a lot of stuff going on with Senpai Records and Streambeats, the cool service that is. That's what we're listening to, by the way, Streambeats Synthwave. I gotta add Hi-Fi and the other more recent releases to the library I have available to run these things with. I thought I had Hi-Fi. Where'd it go? I think I got it mixed up with, I downloaded Streambeats Ambient last time and played it. So I thought I had Hi-Fi, but I really had Ambient ready to go. But Hi-Fi is like peppy or lo-fi music. But I don't mind the parallels to Dr. Disrespect, except my colors are blue instead of red. I'm his age too, by the way, so I'm also close to his age too, so no surprise there. Well, is that why you wear sunglasses? Well, at least I don't wear a wig, so you can see that I actually have gray hair. So, but yeah, the streaming bubble, it was a thing because of conditions around the time of the adpocalypse. I don't expect it to have any long-term staying power. And I don't know how many people have seen the boom and bust cycle of these streamers. Oh, we're actually done with those topics. I don't know how many people have seen the boom and bust cycle of these streamers where they grind away trying to make a bunch of money because they're full-time streamers, and then they get burnt out and they have to take some mental health break, and they come back and like, I'm glad I took a break. Then they get back into grind mode eventually, and then they bust again, go out on another mental health self-care break. I mean, when does it stop? It stops when you realize the freedom that exists with various types of videos, whether it's TikToks or YouTube videos. It stops when you realize the freedom you get from not being tied to a time slot, or not having to just keep talking for 2 hours like I have and wear out your voice, because you can actually take a break between takes and nobody's gonna know when you're making your videos. You know? Or you can not talk at all. Do a pets and animals channel like Munchkin, or to a lesser extent, but Jun's Kitchen. You know, you can do all these. There's so many creative opportunities available to make something evergreen that people want to watch years after the fact that live streaming can't really do. Not very well anyways. Although it has been nice to see some of my older streams that I left on YouTube starting to get views after a couple of months, just like everything else that I have on this platform. The algorithms are slow, but they eventually work. Fun stuff. But yeah, super thanks. That's a feature I've been looking for quite some time. Up next should be YouTube working on improving their monetization system so it's not so dependent on ads. People can get in on it even if they don't have ads yet at a much easier level, and work on getting to the point where they can earn ad revenue. And get to the point where if you're not ad friendly, you lose only the ad revenue and reapply later, instead of getting kicked out of the partner program and having to reapply later. That should be the next major goal of YouTube. Next major UI change. Along with the UI changes that'll make it easier to find streams to watch. The sub button would be a good place for that. Don't tie go live notifications to needing to click all notifications on the bell all the time, so people can just subscribe to your channel and learn and get a notification that you're going live. But it's good to see more of a human face on YouTube these days, instead of it being this faceless Borg machine type thing that it was for years. These names are starting to know. The folks who do like Connor and some other folks who do the Creator Insider videos, the YouTube Creators channel, tweets from folks like Fwiz and whatnot. You know, YouTube managers with Twitter accounts that talk about what's going on YouTube. Puts more of a human face on YouTube as opposed to that video thing that has all that stuff that doesn't work from time to time. It's really cool to see that. But yeah, I may look like a YouTube fanboy of some sort. Well, there's a lot to like about YouTube, despite its problems. I would go so far as to say that YouTube, with its problems, is better than some of these other problems with some of these other platforms with their problems, especially Twitch. I really don't know what's going to happen to Twitch in the next couple of years. They're going to have to double down on sticking to their guns and stuff like that. They're going to have to double down on gaming and gaming type stuff because they just don't have the technology to really be a Twitch competitor at this point. That thing from earlier where I was demoing the super thanks is still going. All right, let's close that. We're definitely done with that. So, super thanks. I'm glad it finally came out of beta. Up next, I want to see YouTube refine their entire partner program to match what the 2020s is like. It may mean that Susan Wojcicki needs to retire from YouTube as CEO, or step down from her CEO position, because I know she has the big advertising background. The industry is moving away from having to kiss up to advertising so much. There needs to be options for folks that aren't advertiser friendly, or not as advertiser friendly. And there needs to be options in terms of letting people in on the non-advertising stuff before they are big enough to really have ad revenue on their channels. Let's see now. You have Supers, which is the most straightforward cheering system that I've ever seen on any of these platforms. No fake currency or anything here. You buy a $5 super chat, a $10 super chat. The exchange rate is calculated out, as we saw with King earlier. You have that. You have the cheering system through super chats. You have the sub system through memberships. And now you have a dono system on your videos after the fact, similar to what super chats offer through super thanks. And you have premieres to straddle the fence between live and video and have a little bit of both. There's really no reason why YouTube shouldn't look at revamping things afterwards. But for the time being, it's nice to see the signs falling into place of what's to come with regards to the streaming bubble bursting. Because this whole streaming bubble thing has been an issue with online media for long enough. That's where we'll call it with this discussion. We've been talking for nearly 2 hours. 1 minute 46:04 on the timer here. Holy crap. So what's up next for me? I have videos, I have tech videos I can work on. My next tech video project, by the way, is going to be when I start working on memberships. I've had some tech video stuff start becoming a thing on this channel again, and it will continue. Streaming does not need to take over everything. Not in the 2020s. Just like with YouTube's partner program, advertising doesn't have to take over everything because it's the 2020s. Let's get back to work on that stuff. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.